everyone, and welcome to another episode of Common Sense with Dr. Ben Carson. I'm your host, Ben Carson. And today, Jep and Jessica Robertson, known for shows like Duck Dynasty and Duck Family Treasure, are joining us for the podcast. The Robertsons became a household name through the popular Duck Dynasty show. But there's one thing that the Robertsons have made very clear to all of us, and that is the importance of a relationship with God and family. And I'm excited to catch up with them today. Jep and Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thanks for having us.
You know, it's great to see you guys. How's your family doing?
They're doing great. My mom and dad still talk about when you came down. Like, they love you. They're the biggest Dr. Carson fans in the world. I'm telling you.
Well, we're big fans of them too. We love what they've been doing. You know, we've had the pleasure of having them on the show a couple of times, and last time we were talking about the documentary The Blind, and that amazing story of redemption. But what about you guys? How did you guys find each other?
We met. Actually, we were getting our hair cut. She was coming up out of the chair, and I was the next one going in. And the lady, Connie Sue, it's funny, had cut her hair for a long time. And I was like, Connie Sue, who is that gal? What is her name? And she was like, oh, her name's Jessica. So I just kind of saw her there. And weirdly enough, this is a true story. This was during college. I told the guy I was living with, I said, I think I just saw the girl I'm gonna marry. And I didn't say that all the time, like going around, oh, I saw this girl. I said it. Weirdly enough, months passed, saw her again, and then I saw her at a Chili's. So I love Chili's because that's where really the magic happens. And I invited her to like a Bible study we were doing in our college group, and we got to be friends. And then it didn't take long, and I was like, yeah, let's get married.
We started dating in June and got married 1st of October. It's really quick. But we're fixing to celebrate, was it 23 years?
23
years this
23
October.
years already, huh?
Yeah. Oh my 5 kids, 23 years later.
The Lord is good. Well, you've done your part with the kids. You know, we're down to 1.6 births per woman in our country now, and it requires 2.1 just to maintain the population. So thank you guys for doing your part. But what's it been like, the challenge of reality TV, being in the spotlight all the time?
It's been challenging at times, for sure. I mean, it's like, I never knew I had so many friends till we had a really popular show. And then everybody, third grade friends are like, hey, man, can you come do this for my cousin? And they're just, there's like a lot of people asking a lot of favors. And, but in the end, what I got more than anything was people saying, thank you for making a show that we could watch with our whole family. And it was centered on Christ, and y'all prayed. And so I always looked at the positive way more than the negative.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, what was it like, growing up in the Robertson family? That must have had a big influence on shaping your family values.
Yeah, for sure. It was, I'm the youngest, so they were hard on me, for sure. But honestly, I mean, you just can't have a better, I don't feel like I could have had a better upbringing as far as my dad teaching us about the Lord, my mom teaching us about love and how to love people. It was amazing.
Well, and like Jeff was the only son that was, it was born after Phil became a Christian. So all the other brothers remember hard times, like the hard Phil, the tough Phil that was, and so Jeff never saw that side of his dad. So, he only saw the good side. And so he kind of has a different take, he would always be, as a little boy, he'd be like, that's not, he would be defending his dad, because he never saw that side. And so he got to see, the Christ follower, and that's the difference for him versus the brothers.
What about you, Jessica? What was it like for you joining the Dynasty cast?
Goodness. Well, I only have two sisters, but we had a big family as far as cousins and so my grandmother was a lot like Kay's grandmother. So she was kind of just the rock and biggest spiritual influence in my life, and always talking about Jesus. Every time you were around her, she talked about Jesus. And every time Jeff was around, there wasn't a visit that she didn't talk about the goodness of Jesus. And so joining the family, I mean, just like you would normally see, the first time I met her, Kay came up and just wrapped her arms around me, gave me the biggest hug, and so everybody was really welcoming and always just so good to me. So it was, I mean, I fit right in. I mean, it really was. They were like they are on TV, the most welcoming people that you'll ever come across.
Well, how have you guys used the platform that the good Lord has given you to highlight family values and community involvement?
I mean, that's something we're always kind of working on. I mean, of course, we got this book we'll talk about at some point, but we just try to tell people about Jesus. I mean, that's kind of in the end, I mean, that's what I want people to know is like, no matter what you're going through, there's a savior. There's hope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we look at like he's built the platform we have, so we try to use it to glorify him and whatever avenue we can. And so Jeff's not necessarily goes out and speaks and does all these things, but we're really relational with community and people we're involved with, and yeah, we're always open. Like I said, we're doing this book. We partner with Brave Books because we just love their heart for the Lord and their heart to want to spread biblical values for our children in books in fun ways. So that was just a way we could do that.
Yeah, what do you think's happening to our country right now in terms of our faith and our relationship with God? I mean, our founding document, the Declaration of Independence, talks about our rights come from God, and now people don't want to talk about God.
No, it's a sad day. My dad, that was one thing he always taught us was I mean, he knows more history about the ex-presidents and like where they stood, the Puritans, like, um, I mean, honestly though, I feel like there's a big movement of people coming back to that. I see it. I mean, I don't know if it's everywhere, but it's like, I hear a lot of people talking about like Christ, and we see a lot of, I guess, because we just are around more of them. But you remember those teachers we met? That, like
Moms for Liberty.
Yeah, monster. I mean, we're like seeing a lot of cool stuff happen. So
yeah, I think there's definitely movement.
If you met teachers who are advocating for Christ, that's really good.
Yeah, no, they're there.
Well,
sure.
I've actually noticed the same thing. You know, they say it's always darkest before the dawn. And sometimes it's got to be pretty dark before people see the light. But I think people are seeing, as we've moved away from godly principles in our faith, what's happening to us. You know, all the hatred and the divisiveness and the immorality and everything that's affecting our society, and it's leading us in a downward spiral. I think a lot of people are able to see that. So I would not be surprised to see a revival in our near future. But in the Duck Dynasty spinoff, Jeff and Jessica Growing the Dynasty, you really detail family life, including the adoption of your son, Gus. What made you decide to adopt?
Well, kind of a long story short is when me and Jess were dating, she said, I want to have 5 kids. I was like, that's a lot of kids. I mean, it's your body. I mean, I don't know. And so we had 4, and then basically she couldn't have any more. And so she wanted to adopt. And I was like, Jess, I mean, I think we're good. Then I went on a mission trip to Dominican Republic, and our church had an orphanage there. And I remember giving these kids just like Hanes t-shirts and like little tidy whitey underwear, just stuff we had as kids, and it was not a big deal. And they cried because we gave them some toys and stuff, but they didn't care about that. Those new clothes, that cheap, I mean, like, yeah, just necessities. They freaked out over, and man, I bawled and cried. And the more I got around, just to be with those kids, and I thought, I could adopt this whole orphan. I would take all these kids home if I could. My mind like really changed on that. I thought, oh my gosh, these are great kids. They just had it rough.
Yeah.
So I got home. I was like, okay, we can adopt.
Yeah. He was all in after that.
Wow, obviously there's some real challenges for adoption, and I suspect that adoption had something to do with your children's book, Dear Valor, did it not?
It did.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a way we could highlight just some of the trials, and I love that what Brave Books does is it puts it in, they could, kids can read these characters and watch them grow. But we got to come in and do the adoption story and little things that we've experienced with our Gussie. And so just the trial of like him being a different color than us, and being him having questions as a little boy, wanting to know, as a like 2.5, 3-year-old, wanting to know why he's different and how he doesn't want to be different. And so, and how to create and just reaffirm that the love of unconditional family, and just like our Father in heaven loves us unconditionally, and we're all adopted, right, and to be His through Jesus. And so we were able to portray that in just a little bit, and then even with other experiences that we haven't faced yet, like him asking about his birth mother. We talk about it some, but he hasn't asked to want to know who she is. But lots of adoptive families have gone through this already, and where Valor, being a tiger adopted by lion parents, is finally figures out and wants to know about his birth parents, and that's something we may face with Gus, and we would definitely back him up, and it may end beautifully and it may not, and it may be something sad and a bump in the road that we just have to reaffirm that, hey, we're your forever family. Legacies are changed here by this.
Well, we're all part of the family of God. But, I always say to people who make a big deal about racial differences, how would you like to go to the National Aquarium if every fish was a goldfish? It really wouldn't be that interesting, would
That's
it?
right.
And who would want to go to the zoo if every animal was a Thompson's gazelle?
Right.
And who would want to get up in the morning if everybody looked exactly like you? So I think God was good to give us variety. And, we're the only ones who make a problem of it. But there are other challenges that go with adoption. I mean, what can somebody who's thinking about adoption expect?
Well, even just the entering into it, we had a couple of failed adoptions where we really thought we were bringing a child home, and something happened, because somewhat, whether you're going through a foster system to adopt or like a private adoption agency, which is what we did, there's still like heartache that come along with it, and it's just heartache to even see and experience what a child comes through, whether it is through the foster system. We've had friends adopt through there, and these children have gone through a lot, and they are broken a lot, and there's a lot of trials, especially if you have other kids too, that your other biological kids or other adopted kids, like bringing that into it, like the genetic disposition, not knowing. It was a closed adoption, so we don't know anything about Gus's birth parents. We don't know if he is like we've had kind of some sensory issues with him at an early age that we've had to go through and seek counsel over and figure out how to basically raise a child that has these a little bit of issues going on, and you want to be really tailor each child. Even our biological children are so different. They're so different, so we have different things that we've dealt with them as well. So, and then having a child that did not come from you and not knowing how to handle certain things, we've had to kind of seek that advice from wiser people that have gone through it.
Yeah, it is interesting because we had 3 sons. Our first son is a spitting image of me, and he acts like me. My second son is a spitting image of my wife, and he acts like her. The third son, if I hadn't been in the room when he was, I would have thought somebody switched babies. But
That's funny.
But everybody has different personalities. But what about when you bring a child or anybody in from the outside, how do you integrate that into the family of your own naturally born children? That's
Well, I
got to
mean,
be a challenge.
it's definitely a challenge. I tell people it's like it's not for everybody. I mean, it would be awesome because if everybody adopted every orphan out there, we wouldn't have any orphans.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Good,
Yeah.
good point.
But it is hard, and like, but they have done great, and
Yeah.
our kids. I mean, it's funny because you got to think we have kids. Our two oldest daughters are married, and then we have Gus who's 8 years old. So there's a big
Yeah.
gap. So they've almost been like kind of like me and my oldest brother. He's 15 years older than me, Al, the pastor, and
It's like having
like
another parent.
that's right.
Yeah.
He was exactly like, and I always say he's kind of like my uncle more than my brother. He's more, and like we first married, like he gave us a lot of marital advice. We'd go over there and I'd be like, dude, I'm just fighting like crazy. I just don't understand. And he's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. And so I think my kids have been like that for Gus too, like a rock to lean on.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. They were a little bit older, and they were gung ho about us adopting. And so we had three. We at the time we had three girls, and then our youngest was a boy. And going into it, we were like, we don't care about race or gender. We would prefer not to have like a fetal alcohol syndrome baby because I didn't know how to deal with a baby with those challenges, like with bringing that in and with other kids. I didn't know how to deal, but we were like, we don't care about race or gender. So it was like, God, whatever you want to,
Yeah.
and he literally came out of nowhere. Like we didn't know he was even going to be born. And we got that call and went up there and brought him home the next day. It was just like that. We had to go buy everything up, and we didn't tell. We had a couple failed adoptions and like fell through, and so it was so quick. We didn't tell anybody because we had already told some family about another child that we were going to be bringing home, and then that fell through. So we were like, I was like, unless this happens tomorrow, we're not. So we got the baby home. We got Gus home, and we took a picture and we sent it, and we said, we just want to introduce you to your new nephew. And that's how we told the family, because it was so like you do get vulnerable, and then you get heartache when something doesn't happen. And so it was so last minute, and it was a God thing. We knew, like, God, you put us here right here in this moment. And he was the biggest baby. He was always like way bigger than his age, and that's the way he is now. He's the size of a 12-year-old now. So
Yeah. Now, is it harder to adopt an American-born baby than it is a baby born in another country?
I would say it was easier. Like, I know we've known people to adopt from China and different areas,
Well,
and it takes months, sometimes a year, to actually to go through the process. So for us, we were like, we knew we could have gone that route. And we like the charity he works for, All God's Children International. They do international adoption, and which is awesome. But we were like, let's just start here. And we knew there was a lot of kids in the U.S. that need adopting, and that's kind of the route we took.
And
But
I hear it's a fairly expensive thing too, isn't it?
yeah.
it is. It is, especially, yeah. I mean, it can get expensive whether it's international or, in the States. But we were fortunate. We had the opportunity, and we were blessed. And it became like, why wouldn't we do this? Our kids want us to. We can. We were young when we had our 4 biological children, and when we adopted Gus, I was only 35. I was 28 when we had our 4th child. So.
In your book, Dear Valor, it has interactive games and activities in the back of the book.
Yes.
Why was it important to include these things that parents and children can participate in together?
Well, we want the kids to have fun. I grew up playing games with, I mean, kind of my fondest memories are playing gin with my grandpa and playing dominoes and hearts with my grandmother, and like
Interacting. You
just
want some
yeah,
interactive activities so that
I learned about life. Like my grandma would teach me about like this is what's going to happen. She gave me such amazing instruction when I was, 7, 8, 10 years old, where it was like, this is what it's like being married. And then she would tell me about the Great Depression and she like truly hard times that she went through and World War II. My grandparents both served, and my grandma was a Rosie the Riveter, which is really cool.
Oh
And
yeah,
so she would give me such amazing like life lessons. It's like, man, we want, parents and grandparents to do that with their
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
and
So
teach them about life.
it's such great. And so there's Dear Valor, and it does have interactive activities just so that families can get involved, siblings can get involved and do these activities and little games, and has other scriptures in here too. But just such a sweet way to actually tell a story. And every book they write, it teaches like some valuable life lesson in a fun way that you can like talk about it, and just biblical values, like getting back to traditional biblical values. And
amen.
you never have to worry about what's in a Brave book. You can trust that it's going to be something that's going to be inspiring and going to teach them a lesson.
Where can people get that book?
You can go to bravebooks.com. You can get this book, which is part of the Freedom Island series. Every book they have is super special. Gus keeps all his in a vintage old suitcase, and he loves his books.
I want to ask you a delicate question. How do you, in the book, tackle transracial adoption? There are a lot of people who are opposed to it. How do you tackle it in the book?
Well, obviously, Valor comes to know that he's different from his mommy and daddy. He's a tiger, and they're lions. And other kids start asking questions. And we basically wanted that story to be told so that other kids can have a little empathy and know what other kids are going through, and be able to sympathize with being different. And so with us, with our Gus, it started at an early age, him talking about his skin color being different. We just really reaffirm that family, unconditional family love and bond that it's there. And it really goes back to um, biblical, like we're all adopted. So it's not always, it's not easy. Even Gus now, he's playing baseball, and his friends, he's got a new team, and they're like, "You're his parents?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, and I go, and we're really just, we live pretty blunt about stuff. We're really open. And if you're honest and open, and I feel like you hit things head on, and it's not sweeping things under a rug, that really goes far with people, and it does with us. And so we've just always been like, yep, your birth mommy was black. And he's always said, I'm gray. He said, you're gray. I want to be gray like you, mommy. And I'm like, well, trust me, you don't want, I'm all
Now he says peach.
Yeah, peach now.
Just a personal story. Like when he was 3 years old, he was taking a bath, and I was walking past him, and I could notice he was kind of crying, and he was scrubbing his arm, and I said, "Buddy, what are you doing?" And he said, I don't want to be brown. I want to be gray like you." That's what he said, and I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
my heart just
It's still hard to think about.
dropped, and I was just like, "Buddy," and I started crying. I said, "Look," and I've tried to reassure him, and this is what's in the book a lot is like, I said, "Buddy, God made you exactly
Yep.
how He wanted to make you. You are perfect." And so that's a big, you know, I guess,
Yeah.
what am I trying to
Your
say?
love,
Yeah, you are loved.
Yeah.
You are strong.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Absolutely.
it was hard. That's what I'm saying. There's been challenges like that where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
shoot, man. Like, I couldn't imagine waking up, looking in the mirror, and
Yeah.
you think something's wrong with you because you don't look like your mom and dad and your brothers and sisters. I mean, it's tough for
Right.
him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, it's tough for us, but it's really tough for him. So
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
lot of what we do is assure him
Yeah.
he's amazing and we love him.
I think it's very important, that book that you've written. I tell people all the time, when I take somebody to the operating room and I cut the scalp and peel it back and take off the bone and open the dura, I'm operating on the thing that makes that person who they are. The skin doesn't make them who they are. The hair texture doesn't make them who they are. The brain makes them who they are. And we have to be a little more deep in our thinking and not be so superficial. And that's the way God made us, and that's why he gave us sophisticated brains. But some people choose to react more like ants. You know, you have black ants, you have red ants. What do? They fight because one's red and one's black. Well, have you ever tried to find an ant's brain? It's not very big. And that's their excuse. What's our excuse?
That's right.
That's a great point.
There are some of the things that you want to instill into all of your children. What are some of those values that you think are important to instill into all of your children?
Well, my dad always told me, and he's right. He's like, you got two jobs on planet Earth, two things: love God and love people. And he was like, those two things are going to be really hard at times, but that's what God wants us to do, and so that's what you should be striving for. And it's funny because it's so easily said, and it's so hard because we want to love ourselves more than God. We want to love ourselves more than other people. So it's basically just, I try to instill my kids, get yourself out of the way and realize it's not about you. It's about God and it's about others.
Amen. I think that's really the key. And you think about what's happening to our nation right now with how the people are not loving each other. What do our Judeo-Christian values teach us? To love your neighbor, not to cancel your neighbor, not to hate your neighbor if they have a different yard sign. And yet we're allowing ourselves to be divided on the basis of race, age, income, gender, religion, political affiliation. And Jesus said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. I think our enemies realize that, and they're fomenting all this hatred and division because they realize they can't bring this country down in any other way. And somehow we, the people, have got to come to an understanding that we're not each other's enemies. Even if you disagree with somebody, it doesn't make them your enemy. I always say if two people agree about everything, one of them isn't necessary. So, it's something we need to be all working on. But I want to ask you a little bit about All God's Children International. Where does it do its work? What exactly is its work?
So they did international adoption. They've been doing that since the early 90s, and amazing family. And it was funny kind of how when we met them, like I just wanted to do something with them because I went to a gala they had put on, and they also started doing orphan care in the last like 6 or 7 years.
Colombia, and that's moved to
Colombia and Ethiopia is where we do a lot of work as far as the orphan stuff. And we've teamed up with Tim Tebow, who's a good friend of our family. He's an amazing, amazing man.
Great person.
Oh my gosh, he's awesome. And so we have a Tim Tebow House of Hope in Ethiopia that's doing great, and it's helping a ton of girls. And we have a House of Hope in Colombia. And I love it. I mean, I always knew I wanted to do something in that space. So, if I could, I was like, man, I want to help kids. Like that's kind of and so it's like a dream job.
Yeah, they do a lot where there's where kids age out, especially over there, they age out early and are young, and it gives them a bridge to continue to go to college. Like they have kids that have gone on to be attorneys or I mean, like basically, and then giving them basically rerouting their whole life and legacy where they don't get in the system and do the same thing. And they have no hope to be able to get a job. So then they sell themselves because they don't know any better. And then they get pregnant. Then they give that baby up for adoption. Then it's just a cycle. So it's a way to like basically sponsor these kids after they age out, where they can continue, go to college, live in a safe home, get food, and change their legacy for
do a lot of is counseling. A lot of these kids have been abused, sexually, mentally, physically, and so we pay for a lot of counseling for them to get the help they need because they don't. That's not a big deal in other countries where it's like here you can typically find somebody there's a lot of that going on. Over there, not so much. So,
Are you guys familiar with the new movie, The Sound of Hope?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
We haven't got to watch it yet because it just came out and we've been traveling, but we can't wait to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, that movie plus what you guys are doing, and gives us all hope, because so easily someone can end up in a situation where they are orphans and where they don't have anybody to care for them, and it changes the whole trajectory of their lives. So, who were your support systems through all of this?
Oh, I feel like that's one thing that through Duck Dynasty, through everything, I feel like our family's so big. We really do lean on each other. Like we're not only we're neighbors, we all live on one street, but we really do lean on each other. And our kids, they know they can always come to us too. You'll get grace and forgiveness, and we will love you no matter what. We're not perfect people, and we don't expect other people to be perfect. And so, but I feel like for us, we can call, like you said, on Al and Lisa. We can call on Jason, Missy. We're there a lot. We do dinners together, or in real life. And so, I think that's really where, like, God has blessed us so much with having such a big family who love Jesus and really want to help other people, especially family.
And our church family, I feel like it's like, man, there's guys that I go to church that I respect so much, and I realize, yeah, they're not perfect. They're just like us, but they're good men who love the Lord, and we pick each other up. You get down, something's a bad week, having trouble with the kids. You got somebody to talk to who's going through the same thing, and you respect them because their heart is in the right place.
What about the Faith, Family, and Freedom event that you guys hosted at the Logstown Estate in Monroe, Louisiana? What was the purpose of that event, and what happened?
Well, it's kind of a thing that we had always gotten together as a family, the Robertsons, for 4th of July. It was always a big deal because my uncle served and my grandparents, and um, so it was just a thing that we had gotten bigger and bigger, and then our families got bigger, obviously. And then my brother Jace he was like a year ago, he's like, dude, let's just open this thing up to the public and do like a big thing. Like, let's just go for it. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, at first I was like, I don't know. I mean, might get some crazy people. It's just kind of like, I don't know if this is the best thing to do. But trusted in the Lord, went ahead and did it. And it was amazing. It's just like a very spiritual 4th of July. So it's like, obviously we love our country. We talk a lot about that, but we also talk a lot about our faith. And it's just really cool. There's tons of stuff for the kids to do. So we just had it.
Yeah, we had it. It was fun because we got to have story time with our Brave books came out. So we got to do story time and read our book aloud to the kids and their parents. And then, but there's Bible, they do Bible studies like every 30 minutes. There's a different Bible study, different speaker. And then we even had Bible trivia with Uncle Si, food trucks. And of course, we end it with like praise and worship and fireworks. And so it's really an amazing deal. This was our second year. They baptize. They have a baptism out there, and like last year, it was over 50 baptisms.
Well, that's the way to really take something good and turn it into something great. It makes a big difference. Now, there's a real problem in our country right now with manifesting your faith publicly. Do you have any suggestions for people who are kind of afraid to make their faith known wherever they are?
I really feel for the people that are not in this country doing that. I mean, there's parts of the world they will kill you for saying the name of Jesus, which
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. It's like I don't know what I would do in their shoes. I mean, like, but the people who do that, it's just you can really see they're living out their faith. They'll do whatever. They don't care. It's like kill me. What are you gonna do? I find it so amazing that, and I get such comfort. And I know here it's so much easier. Oh gosh, like just because somebody's yelling at you and they get mad at you, I'm like, okay, that's a lot better than they coming at you with a machete, you know? So we can consider ourselves pretty lucky to live in this country.
Absolutely. Well, Jep, you had a time in your life that was a little difficult, with drugs and various things. What role did your family play in helping to bring you back?
Yeah, it was
An
about
intervention.
a
Yeah.
year where I just really went off the rails. You know, I was 18 years old and got this, I guess the devil had a hold of me and I just wanted to try everything and about died. And, it's just, I,
Well, before the show Intervention came out, they actually and Jeff and I didn't know each other at this time, so but they had a real intervention in their living room. He came down to work and he noticed, like, at that time it was just Jason Jeff that worked for Duck Commander down at Phil and Kay's house. That's where that's where it was at the time. And his uncle's truck was there. He noticed, and he noticed his other brother's truck was there, and another brother. And so he kind of went in going, I wonder why they're here, and basically they were all in the living room. And um, hopefully don't cry, but Phil was like, we know what you've been up to. And then Jeff comes in and he's like, you have no idea. And he just kind of lays it all out there. And he goes, basically it was like, you're either going to run to Jesus or run away. And, this is where you make that stand. And he was like, I want Jesus. And he basically did a little lockdown and stayed there.
I was on house arrest for a year.
Yeah.
It was the best year. I gained like 35 pounds. So I ate so much of my mom and dad's cooking. And, but I learned and studied, and that's the thing I always tell people was like, I just, was led astray. I believe I was a Christian, even though I did all that stuff, but definitely, I had went astray and, kind of like the prodigal son, my dad always says. And all I can tell you is this, my life since then has been so much more amazing. There was nothing I found in drugs and alcohol or anything like that that could fill me like the Holy Spirit could.
Absolutely. Well, there's nothing like the joy that one experiences with a relationship with our Savior. I can tell you from all my life experiences, that's the only place where peace comes from. And I just want to thank you guys for being such wonderful examples and for what you're doing for adoption also. I mean, this is so important that people learn to give back and to share, and it makes a huge difference in other people's lives. And just manifesting the love of Christ, what a difference it makes. Your whole family is a blessing not only to our nation but to the world. And please give everybody our regards. We'll be looking forward to what's next from the Robertsons. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that time that we spent with Jeff and Jessica Robertson. The Robertson family is a real blessing to our nation. Their relationship with each other, their relationship with Christ is really exemplary of what can happen. And for your prescription for this week, it's just to enjoy your family. Actually, spend some time thinking about how you can bring your family even closer together. It's worth spending a little bit of your extra time figuring out how to do that. The dividends will be great. And that's it for this week. Please subscribe for free. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate us, review us. We love those 5-star reviews. Tell everybody you know about us because we're trying to spread common sense. We want to make it common once again. And remember the cornerstone principles: faith, liberty, community, and life. See you next week.